Legally Blonde was not my favorite. I hate that movie.
Yeah.
Jury Duty with Pauly Shore.
Stop it. It's not. It's just not good down there.
I have never seen that.
Oh my God, it's a masterpiece.
Welcome to The Defense Never Rests with Morgan and Akins, your monthly dose of uncommon sense about all things legal and some that are not.
Good morning, everyone. We're here for another edition of The Defense Never Rests. I'm joined by my colleagues, Ashley Johnson,
Good morning.
Oliver Brooks,
Hi.
Tyler Williams.
Good morning.
And our topic today is the top 10 legal movies of all time. And at the outset, I'll say if we forget any, comment below. Give us your thoughts about things that we may have glossed over. So I know that one thing I always do is I always ask my friends in a certain industry what television or movies best represent their chosen fields. So I ask my physician friends, is life really like Grey's Anatomy and ER? And people ask us all the time, is this legal movie, is that accurate? Is this how it really is? Or is it sensationalized for the film, for the purpose of the film? So what we did internally is we took a huge vote, took weeks to compile, painstakingly came up with a list of 10 legal movies that are our favorites internally in the office. Paralegal staff, attorneys, everyone in here contributed to this. So we're going to go from 10 to 1. We're going to briefly talk about each one. We're going to talk about how realistic we think it is, good takeaways from it, and things that the public may not know about how life really is as an attorney kind of taken from these movies. So let's start with number 10. It's a 6-way tie, unfortunately, between Kramer versus...
And spoiler alert, Jury Duty with Pauly Shore just didn't make the list.
That didn't make the list, and the other one that didn't make the list was Legally Blonde, because half the people voted for Legally Blonde, half the people voted for Legally Blonde 2, and there was no coalescing of Legally Blonde fans.
Isn't it the same movie?
I've never seen either, but
I think it's the same movie.
So that didn't make the list either. So if you're looking for that, it's not on here, and you should talk to the voters about that because they're the ones that screwed that up. So 6-way tie for 10th: Kramer versus Kramer, Ted 2, People versus Larry Flint, Michael Clayton, Primal Fear. So let's start with the first one real briefly. Kramer versus Kramer. Anyone seen it? What's the takeaway?
I have seen it, and it's about a divorce. What I took away from it, it's been a while since I've seen it, actually, but essentially it's just a divorce and a custody case, and the custody is ultimately awarded to the father or to the mother under the tender years doctrine, and ultimately the mother decides that the son would be better off staying with the father. So,
Okay.
Good movie.
I've never seen anyone else.
Meryl Streep, it's classic.
Okay. Ted 2.
Fantastic.
With the big takeaways.
It's a goofy movie. That's what it is. There's no real legal precedent to it. It's just funny.
Why is it on this list? Because I only saw 10, not 10.
Because it's hilarious.
Is it about the law?
Ted is an animated talking bear. He gives himself a last name, which is Clubber Lang, which is Mr. T's character in the Rocky movies. And he moves the court to hold that he is a person rather than property, it doesn't work out for him. But everything that happens in the movie is funny. There's no legal significance to it, at least in my opinion. Super funny, though.
It is hilarious.
Okay, well, maybe I should put that on my list. People versus Larry Flint. Oliver, this table is the only one that's seen it.
Yeah, excellent movie. Not only because it is a pretty good representation of the historical precedent of what Larry Flint went through, even, love or hate the guy, the founder of Hustler magazine, I think it's hard to argue that he was not a champion of the First Amendment. Actually got kind of shot and paralyzed over the whole issue. And he makes a cameo in the movie. He's the judge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Woody Harrelson plays his character in the movie. He plays Larry Flint's character, and has Courtney Love as his wife, which you don't need to say anything more about.
We understand what that means. Michael Clayton, one of my personal favorites. Anyone seen Michael Clayton?
Yes, I've seen Michael Clayton. George Clooney's character, he is basically the janitor for the law firm in that he cleans up issues and certain problems that are taking place. And one of the biggest problems in the film is that one of his friends and a colleague who's defending a certain company that makes a weed killer in a civil case learns that this product is actually doing a lot of damage, and he has a bit of a mental breakdown and decides to start helping the lead plaintiff in the case. And it's all these issues with how George Clooney is going to handle that issue in terms of whether his loyalty remains to his friend or to the firm or to the client. So it's a very fascinating
Fantastic movie.
Almost
Tilda Swinton is in that, one of my personal favorites from Doctor Strange and Constantine and some other stuff. She's great. And Snowpiercer. She was in Snowpiercer. You ever see that?
No, I have
Unwatchable.
not.
Really?
I tried to watch it 3
Wow.
times. I
The
can't.
same guy directed Parasite, which is out now. Plug, great movie.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. That's next on my list. Okay.
Well, we'll go Christmas Eve. I'll make a reservation for Christmas Eve. And then the last tie for 10th was Primal Fear. I don't think anyone's seen that but me. This has to do with an altar boy with a stutter who kills a priest and is defended by Richard Gere. The altar boy is played by Edward Norton. And the long and short of it is that he fakes the fact that he has dual personality disorder. He ends up not, and engineers his own insanity defense, was put in a mental institution. And I think the takeaway from that is your clients aren't always upfront with you with what they might be sharing or having or what documents they have or their position on things. And you have to be really careful at the outset to vet your clients just like you're vetting opposing counsel and their clients via cross-examination or deposition.
All my clients tell me everything.
Well, then you got a skill. I'm glad
You gotta work on that.
I'm glad we're colleagues. I'm glad you're on my team, you know? All right, number 9. We're done with the ties. Number 9, A Time to Kill, Matthew McConaughey, Samuel L. Jackson. Anyone want to talk about it?
I have not seen it.
Okay.
That's great. It's about jury nullification. You know, Samuel L. Jackson's daughter is violently attacked by these white guys in the rural South, and they're tried and acquitted. And he goes into the courthouse and shoots them and kills them in front of everybody. And then he is tried, and that's what the case is about. It's sort of a textbook jury nullification case.
Sounds uplifting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could.
Well, I think at the beginning he tries to move venue right to a more ethnically diverse
true.
place because it's the town is rife with Klansmen and bias, and at the end I think it's probably the most famous closing argument in cinematic history. That's the "Imagine She Was White." Remember that?
Yeah.
So at the end he says, he talks about the brutal rape of Samuel L. Jackson's daughter, but doesn't give her a color or a name. And simply says, close your eyes, and describes this rape for minutes and minutes and minutes, and then says, now open your eyes and imagine she's white. And the jury all comes to his side, and it's an incredibly powerful moment. So,
Wow.
Great movie. If you haven't seen it, please do. Number 8, Aaron Brockovich. Not seen it. Anyone seen it?
I have. It's a
Okay.
classic Julia Roberts movie. Also, it is a true story. It's based on a town, it's called Hinckley. It's a Mojave desert town. Their water system was polluted by Pacific Gas and Electric, who was illegally dumping chemicals into the water system. And a bunch of their residents got seriously ill, and I think some had died as well. Erin Brockovich ironically took the job. She got the job because she hired this lawyer to represent her after a car accident, and she couldn't pay him. So she took a job there to obviously instead of paying him, and she does all the research and she investigates, and she basically did everything but try the case. And I think it's important. What I took away from it from a legal perspective is, one, the power of your staff, and the importance of your staff and how hard they work. Also, the power of proper investigation. She did intense investigation. It took a ton of time, but ultimately I think that's what helped win the case. I think it was like over $300 million they awarded. So that's
Okay.
what I took away from it. Good movie.
Anything to add? No one? We're good? Okay. Next, number 7. Another McConaughey movie. McConaughey is making a dual appearance here. Lincoln Lawyer. Who has seen The Lincoln Lawyer, and what are the real-life takeaways from that in the legal profession? Anyone? Okay. Lincoln Lawyer.
It was your vote.
I wasn't my vote. I've seen it. I have other people at the table that have seen it. Lincoln Lawyer, Matthew McConaughey represents Ryan Phillippe, who I only know from Cruel Intentions. I don't know anything he's ever been in besides Cruel Intentions. Do you have any?
What was the one where he was 54, about Studio 54?
Oh,
I
yes,
think
he was in that. Yeah. But where has he been? Where is he? He's married to Sarah Michelle Gellar, isn't he? Or that's Freddie Prinze Jr.
No, he was married to Reese Witherspoon.
Right. We have someone off camera, Carrie, filling us in. But he is this kind of untraditional attorney that travels around in a car, is driven around and accepts these cases, and they're all criminal defense. And he represents kind of ne'er-do-wells, motorcycle gangs and other people. And he represents Ryan Phillippe. The long and short of it, without going into too much detail, is that Ryan Phillippe is, at the outset, appears to be innocent. But then not only does he admit to Matthew McConaughey that he's guilty, he's also guilty of another crime that Matthew McConaughey had a former client plead guilty for years ago, who's in prison. So this, I think, really highlights. I mean, we talked before about you should know your client up front and do your proper investigations. Matthew McConaughey, up front took the case to kind of help his career, and then once he found all this out, then the question is, does he try to get out of the case? Does he stay in it? And of course, he's being trailed by people, and it's a little more sensationalized than it normally would be. But the question being, if you find out that your client's not only guilty of this crime that you're actively representing him for, but then a crime that someone else, a former client, sitting in jail for, what do you do? And it is
it's quite a predicament.
It is, and it's not something we face because we don't do criminal law in this office. But it's we do have kind of mini versions of that on occasion that we have to deal with. Number 6, Devil's Advocate, another sensationalized movie. But anyone want to tackle that?
I have not seen it.
Okay, I have. But
I mean, it's a very interesting movie. Keanu Reeves portrays a young attorney in the South who's undefeated in defending mostly criminal cases, and he ends up getting recruited by Al Pacino to come work in a fancy New York law firm. However, it turns out that Al Pacino is actually the devil, and some interesting things come out of that.
Yeah.
okay,
To me, the most interesting part of the whole movie is that Keanu Reeves' career, once he moves to the big city and starts working for Al Pacino, it literally poisons his wife, and she just withers into nothing. And she's actually kind of a significant character in the story because she's the barometer for how bad the life under Pacino really is. And plus, it's Al Pacino. You can't miss if you have a movie with Al Pacino.
No, The Irishman, very good.
is it? It's about Nipa. You know that.
Phenomenal.
It's about Nipa. I'm just letting everyone know it's about Nipa. You guys are
there's-
always all over me about Nipa.
I just watched it like a week ago, and it's almost all in South Philly, buddy.
Well,
It is. I was at Villa de Roma this weekend, just a side note.
Well,
but
It's not Nipa. It's South Philly.
then he took creative license because I'll tell you right now. Okay, next, To Kill a Mockingbird, number 5. Anyone want to handle it, tackle it? To Kill a Mockingbird, the old version.
I read the book,
Okay.
not the movie.
Well, I think I think I speak for all of us that Atticus Finch is at least in the top 5 of most heroic and well-known attorneys, fictional or otherwise, of all time. I mean, he's people aspire to be him in the legal profession all the time, and I think everyone knows the To Kill a Mockingbird story at this point. It's one of the most famous novels and movies of all time. I think it definitely highlights the role that the law plays in changing societal norms and rights for minorities, and we're going to tackle this in some later movies too. But the law is always at the forefront based on your constitutional rights. It's always at the forefront of making change in this country, and I think there's never been a more apt representation of that than To Kill a Mockingbird. So, classic in all senses of the word. I think if it was filmed in the 2000s, it would be number 1. But I think just the fact that it's in black and white, people don't.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the bigger takeaways from that movie is that the jury had made up their mind before they heard any evidence in the case, and it was incumbent upon Atticus Finch to totally overcome that predisposition of guilt. The idea that there was going to be a factual weighing in the case is from the beginning that doesn't exist. The guy's guilty, and now Atticus has to get him away from the jury's understanding of guilt, which is not how it's supposed to work. But we see that in particularly in our products cases. You have somebody who's mangled or dead or in really, really a bad state, and people assume that the product is what caused that issue, not that hundreds or thousands of other different factors could have weighed into that. Maybe they were on drugs, or maybe they weren't paying attention, or maybe somebody modified it, that sort of thing. But it's the same idea. No jury walks in my opinion, no jury walks in with a blank slate. They just don't.
I agree.
All right, number 4, Liar Liar. Jim Carrey, classic.
A classic, funny one. I don't think it's realistic at all. Obviously, his son, makes a wish that his father can't tell a lie for 24 hours, and it just so happens that it was done on a day where he was arguing a very important case for him in his career. So obviously, 24 hours he doesn't lie. Like you said, a classic Jim Carrey movie. just in my experience, what I took away one little bit, when he calls and tries to ask for a continuance, and he can't lie, it's hilarious. In my experience, it's just funny because you get all kinds of excuses for people asking for continuances, whether it be responding to discovery or anything, time extensions. And I just thought that was really funny because I think it's true that you do get a lot of lies in those situations.
Yep.
So.
Yep, and I'm sure if most people that watching just see the film is called Liar Liar, they might as well assume it's about attorneys.
Yeah.
That probably goes part and parcel. Number 3, we're in the top 3. The bronze medal goes to aptly because of where we're filming, Philadelphia.
My favorite.
Is your favorite movie?
Favorite
legal movie? Favorite movie or legal movie?
No, Dirty Dancing, but.
No, they're very similar. Same topic, same level of.
But yes, this one's a big one for me, and this is one of the reasons I actually went to law school. And ironically, the first jury trial I participated in was in that courtroom. I don't know if they actually filmed it there, but that was the courtroom that they depicted in the movie.
Was it in City Hall?
Right over at City Hall. Yep. So.
Okay. Anyone else see Philadelphia? Great movie.
Fantastic.
I've not seen it.
Yeah, it's cool. There's a bunch of landmarks that have been transformed for various purposes. I think actually isn't Denzel Washington's office was a bar in Rittenhouse area, I think.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
I forget.
Yeah. And I think another office is now the Mexican restaurant.
Right here?
Yeah.
Those
yeah.
tacos?
No. The bigger
Ray
one.
Alves.
No, I can't say the name. I forget.
Okay, Lolita? Wow,
That is not right down here.
You'd think I was some like aficionado on Mexican food.
Yeah, well, that's also like 20 blocks away.
Yeah.
But
Well-
no big deal.
Great, thanks.
But I think it was kind of for the time. I think it was a very bold move to make that movie. I know it was. I don't think it's an actual true story, but it was inspired by true
it was,
stories.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Hanks
Yep.
can't go wrong.
And I think
thought
the
it was
fact
phenomenal.
that, sorry to interrupt.
No?
The African American attorney representing a fellow discriminated against. I mean, Denzel Washington faced discrimination. He saw kindred spirit in Tom Hanks, and
he was homophobic in the beginning.
he
and
was.
Then,
Yep. He
and then he
refused
came
the case.
to.
Yep. And so I think it's another example of law making societal change. And I think that movie is in '93. I had to look it up yesterday.
Is it really?
And that's not peak, AIDS epidemic, but I mean that's right around the Magic Johnson. I mean that was a big deal then. I mean that was a big topic in America. So, all right, the final 2. Before we even get to the number 2, I have to say this is my father's favorite movie. I think it's tied between Jeremiah Johnson, Mountain Man, and My Cousin Vinny. So you want to talk about 2 different types of movies.
Yeah.
It's like that's the tie in his mind, but he quotes it constantly. I'll just leave it at that. But My Cousin Vinny, anyone else could talk about this. I'm sure we'll talk about this for a while, so anyone shoot.
I just think as a young attorney, it's a great movie because it teaches you so many different lessons. I mean, they've got lessons with respect to criminal procedure, with the rules of evidence, with trial advocacy and attorney-client representations, ethical issues. I mean, it runs the gamut in terms of all different things that you need to know as a young attorney.
Yep. And I think in our office, our office practices in 3 states. It's a firm we practice in, 8 or 9? And I think it definitely highlights the differences in venues and how courts receive things. I mean, My Cousin Vinny with Joe Pesci goes down and represents his cousin in a criminal matter, and then the way he dresses, talks, acts. I don't know who's the actor that plays the judge. He's in lots of stuff. I don't know his name.
He was in the Addams Family too.
Yes,
Yes, Lurch.
he
I
was,
can't
yes.
remember his name though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
he's my favorite character in the movie.
He's great. He's fantastic. But I mean, he has to buy the new suit, and he has to buy the one with the coattails. Remember that? And he says "utes," and they don't understand what that word means, and he doesn't understand the words they're saying. So I think it highlights. I think people generally say, "Well, you're a lawyer. You can do a case in Alaska. You can do a case in Lower Slobobia," and it's not the case. I mean,
in where?
You never heard that? It's like a turn of phrase. Lower Slobobia.
Never heard that
Okay.
one. It's news to
Timbuktu?
me.
Timbuktu? Is that you? Okay, fine. But it's as all of us know, that's not the case. I mean,
No.
there's tons of local rules and additional local rules. There's just a local flair about places that that's very, very different.
Yeah, look, my wife's from the South, and the whole thing with the grits is like her favorite part. Where, he's like, "What is this?" He goes, "Those are grits." He goes, "You've had grits before?" He's like, I have. I just never actually seen a grit,
Yeah. It's great with cross-examination. It's just fantastic. It's a really good.
And it's just funny too.
And the judge hates him, which I can
Yeah.
empathize with.
Yeah.
I really can feel for that.
Yep. And the guy on trial is the Karate Kid, right? Daniel's son.
Ralph Macchio.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
It's also scary that there's attorneys out there that have taken and failed the bar 6 times.
Yes.
And knowing that there are certain clients that do get stuck with those
That's right.
attorneys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it worked
Although
out.
here it worked out.
It did, yeah. All right. Number 1, before you watch this portion of the video, think in your head for a second. If you can guess what's not been on the list, I think you probably can be able to do this. But if not, comment below what you think number 1 should be.
Jury Duty with Pauly Shore.
Stop it. It's not. It's just not going to be on there.
I have never seen that.
Oh my God, it's a masterpiece.
It's
There's
a
no
ma-
other way to
Can we
describe
give that an
it.
honorable mention at least? Honorable mention. Okay, let's do that.
It is horrible.
Honorable mention. What didn't make the list before we get to number 1 that you would have preferred to have on the list? You had pretty high. It didn't make it.
I think all of mine made it.
Well, you know,
Legally Blonde was not my favorite. I hate that movie.
yeah, I don't know why people were so geeked. I think of all the votes we had, that was number 1 on like 3 ballots. I don't understand that. What did you vote for? Do you remember? That didn't make the
Everything that I voted for is on the list.
list? Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I voted for Pelican Brief, which I love.
Oh, that is a good one.
I don't know.
Oh, civil action.
A civil action.
Yeah, with John Travolta.
How old is it?
I think it's from the early 90s.
Okay.
But it's a case where he is a plaintiff side firm and he runs it into bankruptcy, trying to prosecute a case where there's a certain type of contaminant that's polluting the water, very similar to Aaron Brockovich. And he gets a very, seemingly at the time, a fair offer to settle, and he doesn't even take it to his clients. He just says absolutely not on the spot, which highlights some concerns with the duty to bring any kind of reasonable offer to your client for settlement. But it's a very, very interesting movie.
Between Aaron Brockovich, Michael Clayton, this movie, and then do you see this movie that's coming out with Mark Ruffalo, Dark Water?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that there would be pollutants in the ground at every corner. I mean, that seems like a
there
pretty
might
common
be.
theme.
There might be.
Might be.
Fine, not NEPA.
I voted for Scent of a
Clean water
Woman.
up there.
It's not really a
Scott's
legal
country.
movie, but the end of the movie is like a quasi-legal proceeding to expel one of the students of the Baird Academy or Baird School,
Right.
and then Al Pacino, again, you can't miss with him, comes in, and it's quasi-legal.
It is, and he's blind in that, right? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
That's
fantastic.
a great scene. All right, number 1. Without further ado, I think all of us have seen this. Tyler, you have not seen this, which I find.
That's
I don't
appalling.
know what. There's
Well,
just got problems.
Tyler wasn't even old enough to get into the theater to see some of these movies. I mean,
Number 1, A Few Good Men.
But you've seen the scene. The scene.
I've seen the scene.
Okay.
You've seen this scene,
course.
okay?
The scene.
Okay. Okay. A Few Good Men. Who's seen it? Who wants to break it down?
I'll let you break it down.
Well, I'm not going to go through the whole plot. I'll simply say I think it shows great investigation. I think it shows it shows the ability of attorneys to work as a team. Remember, it's who are the 3? Demi Moore, Tom Cruise, and then what's the short guy? Sidney Pollack? No, not Sidney Pollack. Who's the guy? The short guy that's in it with them.
Oh, I don't
I don't know his name.
I'm
Yeah.
bad with names.
Anyway,
yeah.
it's the 3 of them, and I remember the scene where Tom Cruise is holding a baseball bat. Remember that?
Yep.
And he's hit, so I think it shows that, and we do that in our office all the time as we collaborate and try to attack both the investigation factually and the legal strategy from different angles, and you get different ideas. And all 3 of them, I remember for most of the movie, are running around, flying to places, interviewing people, collecting documents, and that's really, I think, an important thing that we deal with.
Classic war room when
Yes.
you're preparing
Yep.
for trial.
That's right. All the documents laid out on the table, and then of course the most fantastic cross-examination scene in history, where he lures Lieutenant, was it Kendrick? I forget his name. Was it Nick Kendrick? Who played by Jack Nicholson, into a false sense of security, kind of pumping him up. He sees him as he has a lot of bravado and machismo about him, so he says anyone would follow your orders, right? Absolutely, to a T. You can't break orders. You can't break ranks. This is the Marines, etc. And then he turns it on him and says, "You order the code red," and he says, "You something right I did. I can't say it on the air." And then that's the "you can't handle the truth" speech. And I think that's the best cinematic representation and the coolest scene ever, and probably in a legal movie, of flipping someone from luring them one way and playing nice to bad copping them and coming over the top.
I agree. I think it was a phenomenal cross-examination.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a movie, but
what I like is Tom Cruise. He's starting to get his sort of his steam going, and he totally oversteps bounds with how he handles Jack Nicholson and the judge. At one point, he's like, "I prefer if you refer to me as Colonel," and then The judge orders, Jack Nicholson back on the stand, and he says something to the judge, and the judge is like, "You're going to refer to me as Judge or Your Honor." It's like there's kind of a cold, sort of a pause there, and again, maybe you couldn't see the movie, weren't at PG-13 or whatever at the time, but Tom Cruise in the movie, he looks like he's like 19 years old.
He does.
Yeah. And then the opposing counsel is Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, and Jack Nicholson has been 70 forever.
Yes, he's not changed a bit. He's never been in a movie where he's less than 70. He still looks 70.
Yeah, even in The Shining, he's kind of old and creepy.
That's right. So, anyone else want to add something on A Few Good Men? No? You should see it. Bottom line. Okay, great.
It's your homework.
Yeah. So that completes our list. If you have any additions, you think we missed something, you want to chime in, comment below. We really appreciate your time here, and we love doing this one. We think it's a lot of fun. That's all for The Defense Never Rests. We'll see you next time.
And Pauly Shore, if you're listening, I tried, man.
And then speak briefly about each one. If you have...
Sorry. None of that was recording. I apologize, guys. Alright, now we're rolling. That sounded good.
Do I do it again?
Yeah.
I love... That sounded good to me.
Recording.
Yeah, my bad. That's my bad.
When the little snappy thing goes, you gotta hit record, man.
Tell me if it's okay to go.